All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 244 of the Restoring Rapport podcast. We are super excited for the content we've got planned out for you guys today. As always, this is a podcast for young believers who are pursuing the goal of marriage and family and looking to get married as young as possible in a healthy way. Normally, I'm joined by my co-host Landon Mock. We come on twice a week, every week on Thursday and Sunday to discuss not only the importance of getting married young, but attempt to equip and encourage you in your pursuit of that goal. And today, we're going to be going over 18 at-home date ideas for you guys to consider in your further endeavors to grow your relationship with your partner. Landon is not here today, however, so I will be doing a solo episode on how to do these. We've been doing a lot of these date idea episodes on basically how to conduct and facilitate the best date you possibly can for the woman you're with. And so I've really enjoyed doing these. These have been not only giving me ideas for what I can do with Lainey, but they've been hopefully generating a lot of value for you on just helping getting your creative juices flowing on how you can get a really good date lined up and basically make it happen for the woman of your dreams. And so today we're going to be going over another one of those. Again, 18 at-home date ideas that are specific to those of you who are looking to have an at-home date night. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into it. He says, first, every relationship expert will tell you that one of the keys to keeping the spark alive in a long-term relationship is continuing to court your significant other even after you get hitched. They'll tell you to set aside regular date night to reconnect and revive your feelings of romance and love. By the way, this author is Brett McKay. I've reviewed his stuff before. He's one of the best in the field as far as, people who are giving young men these great ideas. And that's why I want to give you guys the best that I've been able to find. Another person that I'll throw out here just briefly is Courtney Ryan. If you're looking to, especially if you're going on a first date with a woman you don't know very well, and you're looking to know all the proper dating etiquette of how to do that, as well as what to wear fashion-wise and how to impress her on this date, you're really going to want to check out her YouTube channel. Again, Courtney Ryan, spelled how it sounds. Go listen to her videos if you're going on a first date and you have not gotten to know the woman you're with super well yet. But again, this one is by Brett McKay. He hosts a podcast called The Art of Manliness. He has a huge number of things on that show. I mean, I think he's done 900 episodes. So over three times what we've done on this show. And he has on lots of people that he interviews, but he also just covers everything that you're going to want to know as a man. And part of that is how to be a good husband and a good investor into your woman. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of these facts here. He says every relationship expert will tell you that one of the keys to keeping the spark alive in a long-term relationship is continuing to court your significant other even after you get hitched. They'll tell you to set aside a regular date night to reconnect and revive your feelings of romance and love. Pretty much every couple sees the wisdom of this advice on the face of it, but the execution can sometimes be easier said than done, especially when kids come into the picture. Maybe things are crazy busy for you right now and it's hard to fit a full night on your schedule, or you're on a tight budget and ponying up $100 plus for dinner, a movie, and a babysitter just isn't feasible, or you've gotten a newborn in the house and you're really just not looking to have someone watch her while you're out. Rather than feeling like your hands are tied by these obstacles and that you can't make the date night happen at all, consider an alternative, the at-home date night. And so he's kind of setting this article up to cater to, people who are new parents and people who have, are in the younger side of life and have really busy schedules, especially as it relates to children. This is going to be that paragraph is going to be a little bit beyond what our, target audience is for this show. We're talking to young believers who have not gotten married yet, who are pursuing the goal of getting married. But again, an at-home date night is something that you're going to want to pull off at least sometime in your romance, courtship, dating, period, whatever you want to call it. Because they're just a great thing to do. There's lots of great dates that you can do in the home. And so, this will generate still a lot of value for you. It says the concept of the at-home stay-in date is simple. If you can't go out on the town, get creative and adaptable to come up with a fun one-on-one activity you can do with your significant other without having to leave the house or even the living room. If you have your kids, your date starts once they go to bed. Okay, so basically just an early time for the people who have children, early bedtime for the kids of the people who have children. He says stay-in dates don't require a lot of time or money to execute, but they can make a big impact and rekindle feelings of romance to help you reconnect with your wife, aunt, or girlfriend. And again, this is mostly for you who are just starting out. So you probably already have those feelings of warmth and affection. And again, on this show, we argue that you should really never let those go away, and that it is possible to keep them there. A lot of people act like the honeymoon phase is just something that you have no control over, and that the feelings of love and warmth and affection and romance are basically in your life when they want to be and out of your life when they don't want to be. And it's something that you have no control over, but that's not really true. You do have control over the quality of your relationships. And the more time, effort, thoughtfulness, and creativity you put into it, the longer and the better you're going to have those feelings of warmth, love, and affection. And so I definitely think you have influence over that. And that's been my experience in marriage. The more work I put into my relationship with Lainey, the better the quality of our connection is. And it's just like really anything in life. The more time you put into something, the better you are at that specific thing. But he says things like splitting a bottle of water, a bottle of wine, and having a movie night, or engaging in a little chaka-chaka are easy-going activities once the kids hit the A, but you also want to get creative from time to time and coming up with new things to do. So below, we offer 18 ideas for enjoyable, easy-to-plan, inexpensive, stay-in romantic date nights ideas that you can try with your lady love. The next time you can't get a sitter or afford a night out, instead of throwing the idea of date night entirely out the window, stay in and have fun in a romantic evening anyway. Number one is have a game night offline. So he's talking about like board games, things that you can do with, games that you can play, card games, perhaps board games. Those are the things I'm thinking of when with his title there. Let's see what he says though. He says video games are great, but board games, card games, and other analog games allow you to connect in a really positive way. So break out Boggle or Jenga. A little friendly competition can get the sparks flying again in your relationship. Of course, if your gal is a little too competitive and those sparks might turn into an incinerating rage, you should probably be better off trying something else. I've never really okay, does anybody have the experience where, you're unable to bond with your partner because of competition? I mean, maybe there are couples out there like this. Personally, Lainey and I have never had this problem. I don't really compete with her, and she doesn't really compete with me in any, very great sense. Just because, I see us as partners who are working together towards a goal. And so I don't see her as opposition in any way. She is opposition, I guess, in the sense that she brings to the table things that I cannot, and she has ideas of her own that challenge mine, and she, prompts me and spurs me to greater things, and there is a resistance that accompanies that, I guess. But more so, I think of her as a partner who is helping me do the things that I need to do. Somebody who's basically on my team no matter what. Somebody who's, encouraging me to do the right things. Not so much somebody that's competing with me to try and be better than me in some specific area. So I don't really think of our relationship like that, and I don't think many people do. So maybe that's not an issue for you, the competitive nature of a game date. But if it is, you can take that into consideration, playing something else if it's an issue for your relationship. Everybody's different, I guess. It says number two, eat takeout by candlelight. It says, it's amazing what a little change in atmosphere can do. This is really true. This is really true straight out the gate. You can take a normal, ordinary date and turn it from normal and ordinary into really, 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 novel and memorable just by changing the scenery and putting a little effort into the atmosphere. He says it's amazing what a little atmosphere change can do to transform the ho-hum experience into something special. Sure, maybe you eat takeout from time to time in front of the TV, but put a tablecloth on the table, light some candles, turn on some jazzy tunes, and really take the time to talk, and you'll be surprised how rejuvenating a date night-esque meal will feel, regardless of whether or not you eat fondue or ice cream sundaes. That's really true. All of those things he said were great ideas, guys. Put a little effort into the table that you're eating on. Light some candles, put a tablecloth on it, and turn on some relaxing instrumental dinner music. I cannot recommend that enough. One of our mentors, Lainey and I's mentors, we just went to their house this past week for a mentoring dinner, and they always have their signature hospitality skill is having a relaxing instrumental jazz or dinner music in the background of whatever event they're facilitating, and that just changes the game. It really does. It guides your emotions for the evening. It relaxes everyone present at the event. It makes the event just something super special and memorable, and it sets the tone. It sets the atmosphere super well. So don't forget to incorporate this into whatever at home date you do. I would put on some music that matches the tone you want to set for the rest of the evening. Definitely consider doing this if you have not considered that already. And again, a lot of people do this, but it's kind of one of those things that in your hospitality event, a lot of people focus more so on like cleaning and getting the house presentable and stuff like that. And they don't focus on how you can make your house a better tool for hospitality once the guests are already there. And it's like your job as a host doesn't stop just by, when you've got the house ready for your guests. Your job is just then beginning. Your job is to create the best evening that person, it has access to in a long time. And so in order to make this a memorable date for your partner, if you're doing an in-home date, you're going to want to create an atmosphere that is super memorable, super relaxing, and creates an element of novelty that she's not going to get, for a long time. That's how you want to make this memorable. And so you're going to be surprised how rejuvenating a date night-esque meal will feel, regardless of whether or not you eat fondue and ice cream sundaes. Again, it doesn't really matter what you eat. If you choose to do the at-home dinner date type deal, which we are going to go over some rules for that, but if you choose to do that, you don't need to worry so much about, how to, what you're actually going to eat. You just need to worry a little bit about, ensuring that the food you're eating and the environment you're creating is conducive towards your goal, which is creating a relaxing environment to get to know your partner better. His next tip here is make dinner or dessert together. This is a really cool idea that can actually be incorporated into a double date if you want to. I think a really good double date idea, and again, this week we went to our mentors and they actually gave me this tip, that a great double date idea would be to have a couple over, and instead of having the meal, prepared before they got there to your house, to your home, just leave the ingredients ready and have everything laid out to make the meal, and then make the meal with the couple that comes over to your house. I mean, I think that's a great activity to do. Not only does it give you something to do to kind of, break that initial awkwardness of bringing somebody in your home and starting up a conversation, it gives you something to talk about. It's a conversation generator, but it also gives you the opportunity to work together with someone on something that is a little bit challenging or presents you with some problems, and then solve those problems together and then enjoy the fruits of your labor. There's something really special about that I've talked about on previous episodes of how to do a really good date with your partner. And like hikes do the same thing, kayaking ventures do the same thing, biking dates to a location do the same thing. You're working with your partner towards a goal that then you get to sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labor with the person that you worked to get to that point. And there's something really special about that you can then bring people into, cook a meal with another couple, and you can enjoy the fruits of your labor together. And they actually contributed to the evening. They feel like they helped you with whatever the task was. So consider doing that for your next double date if you want to do an at-home double date. It says making dinner on a weeknight can be rushed and stressful affair, but cooking together when you've intentionally blocked off time for the task and the kids are in bed can be a lot of fun and a nice way to reconnect. Make something you haven't tried before that's hands-on in preparation, like sushi or homemade pasta. If you need something simple, just make your own pizza using store-bought crust. All those are great ideas. If cooking is too involved or your kids go to bed so late that you'll have trouble holding out for it, whip up a dessert together instead. Another great idea, but something I would say here is that this date could quickly become a chore, again, if you're not setting the right tone or atmosphere for the woman you're with. So just make sure that you're setting the right tone for these dates. The difference between a meal preparing dinner date and a chore is the tone. That's really the only thing. You're doing the same thing with your partner in both scenarios. In an at-home dinner date where you're cooking together, you're having a good time laughing and talking while you prepare the meal and work together for the goal that you're going to have at the end. And there's music going in the background and you're having a good time and the atmosphere is one of a date. But in the chore scenario, let's say you don't put on any music, you don't put on any special candle lights, you don't put any extra preparation into the table, you haven't prepared anything or blocked off time, so you're just rapidly throwing together ingredients together. You're not talking much, you're just focusing on your own thing. That's a chore. That's that's not something fun that's going to help you reconnect. That's something that you're not going to want to do together for this date. So make sure you're actually putting in, I would say, the time and effort to make the atmosphere special and unique. Because if you're not, this is going to turn into a chore date really quick, which is not the tone you're going for. It says paint with watercolors is number 4. When was the last time you busted out some art supplies and tried your hand at painting? It's just as fun as you remember. So get some cheap watercolors sets and some big pieces of paper and sit and paint yourselves some masterpieces. Don't forget to dab in some happy little trees. That's probably a Bob Ross reference. Number 5, create an at-home bookstore. These are the kind of the artsy dates. I would say that was my initial reaction to these. I never really was a big arts and crafts guy. I actually really didn't like doing those things because it was usually messy and it didn't yield a fruit that I enjoyed. So, but again, everybody's different. And so if you're a couple that's super artsy and creative together in that way and producing crafts and art supplies and stuff, or art products and stuff, then this might be a really good date for you. So again, everybody's different here. Make this your own. What I'm telling you, you can't just, copy paste into your own relationship. You have to put in some of your own thought and effort and stuff. But hopefully this will be generating some creative ideas for you. Yes, but also sparking your creativity to make your date your own. Number 5, he says, create an at-home bookstore. One of our favorite dates, Brett McKay says, is to go to a bookstore, not only to browse their books, but to grab a few magazines and sit in the cafe to read them. Interesting. You can recreate this bookstore experience at home by each buying a couple of magazines beforehand and then making your own lattes or hot chocolates. Sit in some comfy chairs around the house, sip on your drinks, read your mags, and then share the interesting tidbits you come across with your significant other. I'm going to be honest with you, I had never even thought of that. That is something that's totally new for me, and initially my reaction to it is there's not a lot of talking, so it's not a great date to actually get to know someone or connect with somebody. So this would not be a good first date. This would be something that you want to do, when you know someone super well and perhaps you're looking to decompress after a long day, but still spend quality time together. This would be a good way to do that. And I guess you are sharing, what you found with each other at the end of the date. But I would say this would probably not be a good first date, just because there would be the awkwardness of sitting and reading next to somebody that you don't know super well. So do this one once you know your partner really, really well, and you just need some time to relax. Maybe after you've both had a hard work day or something, this might be a good way to unwind. Give you a conversational topic that doesn't require your creativity to come up with. That would be a good plus of this date. It says ask each other questions. Number 6. And again, I think this is just something good to do on every day. Asking questions is a basic skill in conversation. You don't want to just talk about yourself for half an hour. There's nothing more exhausting, like I said before, than sitting across the table from someone who cannot talk about anything but his or herself for 45 minutes and asking 0 questions. That's totally exhausting, not a way anyone wants to spend their evening. And so this is going to be a basic conversational skill that you should have, but he's suggesting it as a date. Basically, again, you see the couple in this picture. They've got the mood in the room is one of relaxation. She's crocheting, he's reading. They're talking casually about things they may have had happen during the day. They're asking each other questions. This Lainey and I's conversation time, a lot of the time right now, happens when we're in the car, because we're commuting from one place to another a lot right now because of where we live and where we both work. And so a lot of our time to talk is in the car. And usually what we'll do is, if we have music on at all, we'll turn it down super low for that. But most of the time, and what we could do better is actually intentionally create a playlist of music that is conducive to a talking date in the car. But what we don't do that enough as often as we should, I would say. But so we can learn from this guy here. But as you can see, the mood of this room is very relaxed, and this couple is just engaging in some relaxed conversation by talking to each other in an environment where there are no stressors. So I would say that's a big deal for the questions date. He says there are a lot of questions for couples books and card decks out there. Lainey and I have several of those. Those are really, really fun. I'll talk about those in a second. But he says, and there are also ones that are not specifically couples focused, but simply offer fun conversation starters for everybody. If you feel like you and your wife haven't really talked in a long time and have trouble discussing anything other than your work or kids, having a list of interesting question prompts can get you laughing, conversing, and learning new things about each other. Again, break the ice by engaging in a rousing game of Would You Rather, or an alternative card game like you mentioned before. Those alternative card games are really, really fun. I got one from my Secret Santa work buddy, which I still have no idea who this person is, but they gave me this awesome card deck for couples, and it has questions that the couples can ask each other to get to know one another better. And that's a really, really fun date that you can actually incorporate into a larger date. So let's say you decided on the dinner date or you decided on the, the crafts date or something like that, you could incorporate this card game into that date by just simply, alternating. You pull out a card, then she pulls out a card. You pull out a card, then she pulls out a card. It really does get the conversation interesting. It really does get it fun. And the best part about it is it's not, it doesn't take energy on your part to come up with conversational topics and prompts. You already have them on the table. You just simply have to reach over, grab one, and answer the conversational prompt. The downside of this is that you don't have as much control over the conversation, and you aren't using your creativity in the conversation, but it can be so relaxing to be able to just engage in a date like this because you're not having to work as hard to talk. And that can be super helpful, especially if you are beaten down by whatever, outside force is troubling your life at the moment. So work often, I'm learning how to not bring work home to my relationship with my wife and keep work at work and keep work separate, and basically don't allow the troubles of the work day to interfere with my relationship with Lainey. And this game is so helpful for me personally in that front because if I've used all of my strength fighting battles at work, and I come home and I have no strength left to generate conversation topics with my wife, that's not a good recipe for a good date. And so these cards enable me to come home and have a good date without exerting more energy and more creativity, more creative energy to come up with conversational topics. So I really love those card games. Again, they're super helpful. And again, if you don't know your partner super well, they give you a great opportunity to come up with really cool conversation topics without, coming up with some of your own. Especially that can be very difficult if you don't know somebody's interests quite very well yet. And so this is a great way to do that. Number 7 is play indoor mini golf or croquet. All I can see when I think of this is a lot of preparation. He says mini golf is a simple date night for many folks, but you don't have to go out to play a few rounds with your gal. When I was little, we had a Nerf indoor golf that allowed you to set up the little holes around the house. It's been discontinued, and no one really seems to make a set that's on par with it, he says, but you can pick up a used one on eBay for $20. The clubs are kid size, so you have to lean over some, but that's the best part and humor of the fun. There's no such thing as indoor croquet. There's such a thing as indoor croquet that sets as well. There's also, I was going to bring up the outdoor croquet sets. If you go on an outdoor croquet date, that's still an at-home date. So what I would recommend as far as croquet and mini golf is the mini golf seems a little bit like that it would be hard to make happen. And again, a lot of preparation and stuff. I would go with the outdoor croquet for your dinner or for your at-home date. Those are super easy to set up. If you have any type of yard space whatsoever that's even remotely flat, just put those little white wire pickets in the ground. Just push them into the ground and then play a game of croquet. Just have the grass cut if you can. Even if you can't, though, I mean, it's not the end of the world. And again, those are just an awesome little idea for an at-home date. I really like the croquet one. Again, it's just something that you can do where you're talking together. And there's still the opportunity to have great conversation, but you're doing something together as well. So that makes a really good date. Really good dates usually do that. They'll have a task or something for you to participate in with your partner, but they'll also have the opportunity for good conversation. So the dates that usually aren't as good, I would say, are the dates that have one or the other. So dinner dates, you're basically just sitting there. There's not much to do. You're just talking. Movie dates, there's no talking at all. You're just sitting there and doing something with your partner, watching a show. And again, I would say those are kind of limited date ideas because you can't talk and do something together. It says like playing a board game. He recommends number 8, do a puzzle together. He says, like playing a board game, doing a puzzle together is a nice, relaxing activity that helps you chill out and have a good conversation. Pick a puzzle that you can finish that evening, like something like 200 or 300 pieces. So he's advising you not stretch this out over a period of weeks, doing a 1,000 piece puzzle. Just do a small puzzle like 200 or 300 pieces. That's a really interesting idea. Again, working together to complete a project while having the opportunity to talk. Really cool day idea. If you're into puzzles at all, this is going to be something that's super relaxing. You can also incorporate, again, the atmosphere tools that I've given you before. Play some music in the background that sets the tone of your evening. Have some romantic candlelight. Have a snack to hand that has an element of novelty to it that you don't normally have. And that's a recipe for a really, really good date. Number 9 is have a backyard picnic. Lay out a blanket in your backyard, set out a lantern, and eat dinner or dessert under the stars while you snuggle and stargaze. Man, this is a good one. He says baby monitors have a nice long range these days, so you can bring it along to ensure your little one isn't freaking out inside while you're noshing on brownies. Again, he's trying to set up this article to target, to include, I should say, couples who have children, which is great. But again, you're not going to have to worry about some of those difficulties because you're younger and you haven't gotten to that season of life yet. So this date is going to be even easier for you because you don't have to worry about your kids inside. And so he says laying out a blanket in your backyard and setting out a lantern, eating a dessert under the stars while you snuggle and stargaze is a great idea. I really, really like this one. It's hard to beat a stargazing date, guys. It really is. And we're going to do an episode exclusively on stargazing dates because there are some really, really cool ideas that you can incorporate into your stargazing date, but I will save that for that episode. So I'm not going to go into those details yet here. But if you're interested, keep your eyes and your ears open on whatever podcast platform you use, our episode on how to do the best stargazing date. It's going to have a lot of really good tools for you in there. And stargazing is one of my favorite dates of all time. And so maybe if not the favorite date of all time. And so definitely read that or definitely listen to that if you are interested in stargazing dates. It says his 10th idea is read aloud from books. Really good. He says back in the 19th century, people were all about reading aloud to each other, sitting around in a parlor and reciting poetry, and book passages was considered a good time. Bring back this old tradition for a stay-in date. You and your lady can each choose a few excerpts or poems to share, read them aloud to each other, and then discuss. Really great, interesting idea. Another great way to sort of transport yourself and your couple back to the past and sort of it's not nostalgia because you didn't live back then and you don't have associations with it, but it's like there's an element to this day of having a date with your partner in a different time. So like you can basically have a date in the 1920s, with your woman, or have a date with your partner in the 1940s, the 1950s, the 1960s. And so this is a really cool idea just to how to do that. Read a book together, read an old poetry book. And again, that's a great way to do it. I mean, and any date where you can bring in, even not transporting yourself to a time before you were born, but transporting yourself to a past time in which you both lived and bringing up memories of nostalgia and things like that. Those are great dates as well. So, I mean, if you want to listen to, I think he's going to get down to this one later down in his list, but if you can bust out a record player or listen to a favorite song together or do something like that, that's a great way to bring up, again, if not nostalgia, it at least transports you to another time in which you were born. It makes you feel like you lived a long time ago, which is a really cool date idea. You could even do, if you wanted to put a lot of research into it, you could do a standard 1920s date and try to emulate and recreate what a 1920s date would have looked like a long, long time ago, either in your own at-home date or if you wanted to go somewhere and do that. That would be super, super cool. He says make a craft together. Again, this goes to the arts and crafts one. I'm not so much a fan of those, so I'm actually going to skip that one. But again, if that is your thing, if you want to read this article, it is going to be in the link in the show notes, so you can go and read it yourself if you're interested in the arts and crafts. He says watch a movie outside. We have an episode on how to have the best movie date of all time already published. So if you guys want to know how to do a really, really good outdoor movie, go back and listen to that episode. We give all the strengths, all the benefits, all the tips and tricks of having an outdoor movie, all the ropes of it, basically. We teach you how to do it. And that was a really fun one. So go back and listen to that if you want to watch an outdoor movie with your partner. Number 13 is fireplace, weenie, and marshmallow roast. This is interesting. I've never thought of this one before, but as you can see, this couple in this picture is using the fireplace as a sort of campfire, an impromptu campfire. It says, as we've often extolled on here on The Art of Manliness, there's simply never a bad time for a weenie roast or s'mores. So camp out in the front of the fireplace and roast yourselves dinner and dessert. That's interesting. Never thought of that one. You'll definitely remember it. What I will say for this day is it's definitely memorable. You'll never forget doing something like this. 14 is having a tasting party. Wine tastings are just the tip of the iceberg. In addition to buying a few different wines, you can also try wines, whiskeys, or even root beers and do a tasting, sip them, and savor the flavors, discuss your favorites. You can even do a tasting of foods, getting some different cheeses, or better yet, sausages and cured meats, and sampling the fare. This one is going to be run a little bit more pricey. So if you're doing an at-home dinner date in order to save money, this is probably not going to be the route you want to go, just because wines, meats, and cheeses are all sort of luxury items as far as the price goes. And so you're probably not going to do this if you're looking to do the at-home date as a cheap alternative option to going out. But if you're doing an at-home dinner date just for the atmosphere, and you're not, the money is no object to you, then this would be a really good one, I think. Just lay them all out on a big smorgasbord on the table, have a big, huge cutting board with all the meats and cheeses chopped up and prepared prior to the date starting. Or you can incorporate, again, the preparing the meal together date idea and actually set up the date with your significant other. That would be really cool. And then sit down to enjoy the fruits of your labor. That would take a little bit more time, but it would honestly give you more opportunity to talk and everything. So really like that one. You could even pull in the card game here. You could combine 3 of the tools we've talked about. So you could have a wine, meat, and cheese tasting in your home. You could prepare it with your partner. So having the meal prep date with your partner, and then you could incorporate the card game, the get to know you card game and the questionnaire prompts card game into the activity time that you have set aside, blocked out for this date. That would be a really, really cool date that Lainey and I would actually really like doing, I think. Number 15 says have a vinyl listening party. So yeah, if you want to bust out a record player or play some records or vinyls, that would, again, transport you to another time, make you feel like you were dating in the 19 whatevers, and just provide a lot of opportunity for you guys to bond over some, if not nostalgia, then very novel, elements. Number 16, take a bubble bath. So this is going to be one for those of you who are already married. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend getting naked with somebody who you are not married to for obvious reasons. Again, that level of intimacy without the level of commitment that I think should accompany it is, I would say, a recipe for having your heart broken and a lot of separation issues there. So wait to do that one until you're married, obviously, but taking a bubble bath, that can't be a bad way to go as far as a date you could do when you're married. That would be a really fun one. And again, it's not just a bath. I love how this guy, Brett McKay, always pulls in the novelty elements and incorporates them into the day. It's not just like you're running the water, You're running the water and you're taking the time to make the bath unique and special and something that you don't always do. And that is the recipe, I would say, for any good, memorable date. Making it something that you don't experience every day, making it something special and unique and novel that you don't get to experience every day with your partner. And so that is what I would say Brett McKay is really good at doing. Number 17 is create a bucket travel micro adventure list. So basically, hey, I would love to go here before we turn 40, or I would love to go here before we turn 50, or I would love to do this before we die, or I would love to do this before we have kids, or something like that. Really good list ideas there. Again, this date I would say requires a lot of creativity, but again, if you have prompts in front of you, if you have like a bunch of brochures, like if you go to your local rest area and then get all the brochures that they have on whatever attractions are available in your state, not only are you going to learn a lot about what your area has to offer you, but you're also going to have some prompts that are going to get your creative juices flowing as far as what you want to put on this bucket list. And so definitely consider that. I would say that's the best resource you're going to have for this one is go to your local rest area. Just get on the interstate or the highway or wherever you can transfer from state to state. Find a rest area, your nearest one. You could even Google it on Google Maps, just nearest rest area. Go to that rest area because that's what your state is giving people who are coming in and have no idea what's in your area. So it's going to have lots of information there as far as what's available to you in your area, what's available to you in your state as a general rule, and the things to do in your area. And so go to that rest area, collect some brochures or pamphlets of things you'd like to do, and then go home and for the at-home portion of this date, read through them with your partner and go through the things you'd like to do before kids or before you get a house or before you move or before you turn whatever age. That would be a really, really fun date, I think. And again, make it novel, make it unique. You've done that to an extent by going to the rest area and preparing for it, but I think that would be a really good idea. Number 18 is listen to a spooky old-time radio show. This has become a Halloween tradition for Kate and I, he says, but something you can do any old time, especially on these dark, chilling winter nights. So this would be a good idea if you're doing this in the winter. Right now, at the time this is being filmed, it's approaching summer. It's April 20th. So we just published an episode, it's scheduled. It hasn't come out yet, but at the time you're hearing this, yeah, it's come out. It's in the past. So you will, by the time you're hearing my voice right now, have access to that episode on the best summer date ideas. And so if you're interested in summer date ideas, go listen to that episode. But he's talking about here, this would be a great one to do in the wintertime. nighttime. If it's cold outside or raining or wind or stormy or chilly, you can still do this. Again, he's saying here, after the kids go to bed, we make a fire in the fireplace, lay down a blanket in front of it, set out our vintage radio turned MP3 player, and put on an episode of an old time spooky radio show. I really like this one, not because I myself like spooky stories or shows, but my wife really does, and I'm going to enjoy any date where she's having a good time. And so this is going to be an opportunity to listen to, like, you know, a true crime podcast together, or a spooky story podcast together. Listen to, have a little snack, have a blanket, have a fire. Those are great things. So do a sort of stories around the campfire moment, but inside. That you can't go wrong with that, I think, especially because a lot of women like the spookier stories, I think, in my experience anyway, and that's certainly true of my wife. It says life gets hectic if you're finding it difficult to make time to cultivate love between yourself and your significant other. Get creative and pull off a DIY at-home date night to rekindle the magic. Skip vegging out with Netflix or Amazon Prime, and instead try one of these stay-at-home date night ideas. So that's kind of how he closes off his article. Really good. A lot of really good date ideas in this article. A couple of my favorites are not only the creating a bucket list with your partner idea, where you just, and again, I would put in the extra effort of going to a rest area in your state and finding things to do in your area. I think that's a great idea, because again, that's making this date something that you don't do every day. There's an element of novelty to it. It took some time and preparation and effort and investment and energy and even money to get those resources. So you go out, you get those on your own time, bring them back to the home and have that time, and invite your significant other over and go through of those together. That would be a really, really fun time. I would love that date idea. Also, the vinyl listening, those are great. The spooky story listening, those are great. Roasting marshmallows over a fire, that was a really fun one. Watching a movie outside, I think, is really, really good. That's at the top of the list. The only thing that beats that, I think, for me, is stargazing. Man, stargazing is my favorite kind of date of all time, basically. And I will go through just really quickly a couple of things for you guys. If you decide to go the at-home dinner date route, there's an article by Brett McKay, again, called The 10 Commandments of the At-Home Dinner Date, that I'm going to just briefly go through here. Commandment number 1 is a good dinner date at home does not make a good first date. So this is not going to be something that you want to do with somebody that you don't know well. He says, no matter how excited you are to impress her, it's kind of creepy to invite her into your house on a first date. I wouldn't even say it's creepy. It's just not common etiquette. And so that's going to be like a red flag for her. Like, why is he not following common etiquette for dates when it comes to asking me to do something? So save it for the third date or later. He says, also taking her to a restaurant will first give you the idea of what she likes. Pay attention to what she drinks and eats, and it will help you develop your own menu. I don't even know if the second or third date would be. It probably depends on how it's going, obviously, and this is going to be unique to everyone. But I would say this is a date that you want to do, the at-home dinner date, just the standard idea of an at-home date. You're going to want to do later into the relationship. Commandment number 2 is get as much possible done in advance as you can. This is good unless, like I said, you're intentionally leaving the ingredients unmixed as a way of doing the date together with your partner. So if you're wanting to make a meal together and you've taken the steps to not make it feel like a chore, you have the music going, you have the candles going, you have the environment set, you're laughing and everything's going well, then that would be an exception to this rule. You can have everything done except for dinner and intentionally leave that unfinished to make together. But as a general rule, get as much done in advance as possible, because a lot of times, especially my wife, and I remember even when we were dating, if the environment wasn't good, it was hard for her to relax. And if it's hard for her to relax, she's not having a good time on the date. So just try to make her as comfortable as you possibly can. Commandment number 3 is never serve anything messy or difficult to eat. That's true. This creates an awkward situation. Don't go to tacos. Don't have ribs on a first date with somebody. Don't do these things on any date at all, because unless you're wanting to laugh at each other, which I guess could be fun for some personalities and people, but don't do spaghetti. Don't do French onion soup. Don't do lobster, stuff like that. I mean, you're not going to want to create an environment where you're trying to talk to somebody, but it's impossible to eat in a clean fashion. And so don't do something like this. Commandment number 4, offer her something to drink that you know she likes. This is really good. And this is, again, a tip that you can use to show that you know that you're putting in effort to know her well. So if she's told you she likes some drink or some, food, just show her that you remember that and you were listening by offering her that in the future without being prompted or reminded of the fact that she likes it. It says if you follow rule number one, then you would know what she likes, whether she loves beer, cocktails, red wine, if she's a teetotaler or just doesn't want her water or soda. Whip something up a little more interesting, mimic what she would order at a restaurant, and she'll be very impressed that you paid attention. Like I said, that's a great idea. Commandment 5 is don't chew with your mouth open. Again, common table etiquette here. A couple other table etiquette tips that I'll just throw in is you're actually not supposed to wipe with your napkin. Did you know that you're not supposed to use your napkin to wipe your mouth? You're supposed to dab your mouth, which is a big deal in table etiquette. I once listened to a presentation by this etiquette specialist on the napkin and the purpose of the napkin, and she just made a point over and over and over that if you're eating in such a way that you have to wipe your mouth with a napkin, then we need to go back to square one. It was basically her original point. So don't eat in a messy fashion, and don't eat in a way that requires you to, wipe huge portions of food off of your mouth. That's just not a good thing to do. Commandment number 6, don't get too drunk. Obviously, I would say if you're trying to make a woman comfortable, the last thing a woman is comfortable with is a man she, doesn't know that well drunk. That's just common sense, guys. I don't even need to say that. If you don't know that, that's a problem. And I would say everybody does know that. Again, that's just common sense. You're trying to make this woman comfortable here, and a drunk man is not something that she's going to be comfortable with, even if she knows you well. It just ruins the date. You're here to get to a woman, to get to know a woman, not to get stoned, not to get hammered. Don't intoxicate yourself. That's not the point of this date. Common sense again. Commandment number 7, have a backup plan. This is a good idea. You've got to be able to adapt on the fly, just because things don't always go according to plan. Even if you put in a lot of time and effort into these dates, they don't always happen. So just the exact way you want them to happen. So just make sure that you're able to adapt. It says commandment number 8 is don't bother with dessert. It says don't go overboard after you eat. Stay out of the kitchen, buy some ice cream, some sugar cones, some sprinkles, and some impromptu. Who doesn't like ice cream cones? Again, this is good advice, just because you can put all the effort into one thing. Because if you start diversifying all the things you're putting effort into and allocating your energy, you could create a less than the best date experience in every one of those departments. So just focus really hard on one area, make that the best experience she's ever had, and then do something after it with her. Transition into something that's a little bit easier. Commandment number 9, keep it simple. So the more variables you have, the better chances things will go wrong. You don't need candles and a tablescape to make a lasting impression on a woman. That kind of flies in the face of his previous article advice on just making the environment as good as you can for a date. And I would say that's actually, I like the advice of his first article better there. I would not forgo the candles and the music and the table and the environment that you're creating. I would try to make that as special as you can. Do something to make it novel. Even if you can't manage all three of those things, just do something special to make it to set itself apart from just eating a meal together on the couch. Just make it special somehow. Commandment number 10 is relax. It's supposed to be fun. And those are kind of his tips for a successful at-home dinner date, his 10 commandments for a successful at-home dinner date. Really good article. I like the first one better just because it gave you more ideas. It was a more creative article. And it also emphasized the importance of making the date novel and special and unique and different than anything else you're going to do together that week. So just make it memorable that way by making it a special event. Don't make it something that you just do out of obligation or something like that. And so I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. If you have, reach out and let me know what your thoughts on it were through the link in the show notes. You can send me a personalized audio voice message, give me thanks, questions, comments, feedback, an alternate perspective, your story, anything at all. I would love to hear from you. It would make me feel super connected to you as an audience member, and it would make the podcasting system two-way. If you use any of these tips that I've discussed in this article, please reach out and let me know not only how the date went, but what you would improve upon as far as tips for how to make those dates better. I would love to hear those. Again, and it would give me some value and make this podcasting system a conversation instead of a monologue. You can also, if you would like to get to know me better, follow me or the show on Instagram and Facebook if you're interested in the content we post, and we would love to get to know you there. Thank you guys so much for listening today, and we will talk to you all next time.